Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth release as we have the final of the strike attacks. This is the Monolophosaurus, and this is actually a brand new figure as far as the paint job goes anyway. Sculpt-wise, it is the same figure we've had many times before, which is unfortunate because I would love to see some updates to this one, like, better teeth, maybe having those newer, sharper teeth would be a huge improvement for this figure overall, but for some reason we just continue to get this same reused Monolophosaurus figure again time and time again, and we have a newer version of this one out. Like, there's a new, more updated kind of stylized version of the Monolophosaurus that Mattel had released, but we for some reason always kind of end up back at this one. Kind of reminds me of the Herrerasaurus, where we have that really beautiful newer version they had released, but we still always end up seeing that other uglier version in the Mattel line more often than not. But as far as the packaging goes, you can see again pretty much the standard that you would see from these figures, and then here on the back you can see an image of the figure as well as the checklist showing off that this is the final of this group of figures that we needed to review here on the channel. So let's pop the box open and check it out. So here is our newest version of the Monolophosaurus, and it is actually kind of okay, but not really great. It's almost like the Indoraptor version of the Monolophosaurus here, but sculpt-wise, definitely the same sculpt we've had many times, and I even believe we've had this action feature as well, where you push the tail down and the jaw snaps. I think we've had that on this Monolophosaurus many times already. So overall, we don't really need to go over the actual sculpt of this one, and basically just what's different on this one compared to the original release. So if you start here in the head sculpt, you can see that the coloration is really dark as far as the primary body color goes. Kind of from afar looks like a black, but when you get it nice and close, it's actually like a really dark brown. And you can see the teeth on the inside of the mouth are painted with like a light yellowish sort of a tone. And then we also have the eyes painted with a green, and it doesn't really look like we have a black pupil. Kind of looks like we just have like that dark brown that is kind of like the slit-like black pupil for the eye of this one. On the inside of the mouth, we can see a pinkish tone in there for the tongue, and yes, it actually does extend to the upper side of the inside of the mouth as well, which is definitely nice to see. But as you move back into the body, you'll start to see a speckling pick up, kind of like a light speckling that I'm having a hard time exactly finding the tone of color. It's kind of like a light brown, it looks like, that you see popping up there. You can kind of see it up here in the top of the hip, so like a tan sort of a speckling, and that is pretty abundant through pretty much the entire figure as I look it over. Also, since we're here already, we might as well give you the fax app code if you want to add that one to your collection. But as you move along, you will see that we pick up this pretty flashy patterning as we have a gold. Now, is that the most realistic tone of color? I don't think so, not so much, but it's kind of Indoraptor-ish as far as like the dark tone of color, and then that kind of like goldish sort of a tone, although the Indoraptor is a little more than just a gold. But you can see that start here about halfway through the neck, lead back, and then it kind of disappears almost into like a lightning bolt as we move into the hip region, and then it picks back up very briefly right there in the hip region, and then ends again before we lead out into the tail. And that's really about it as far as the coloration goes. So it's super basic, not really that impressive, fairly Mattel-like as far as their usual coloration and paint jobs go, but it is, again, just another of the many paint variants we've had for this species. Mattel absolutely loves the Monolophosaurus. We have so many versions of this. I'm actually kind of curious just how many we have at this point, but definitely quite a few, and you can see that again if you just kind of look back through the Mattel line. But this one was a little bit trickier than the Tapejara, I think, because like even though the Tapejara kind of looked a little similar to the older release, this one looked really similar to a previously released version that we had, and that was this one, but really to the untrained eye only, because once you actually look at the figure again, it actually has a very different look to it, very different tones of colors, and obviously some major differences even in the sculpt with like the crest and everything there on the head of the dinosaur. So it does have a very different look from this one, but also I felt like it kind of resembled this one as well. Again, only to the untrained eye, because once you look at them, this one obviously shares the same sculpt as the other one, which has a different crest and everything, and very different paint apps and stuff. So It's one of those instances where I saw the figure and I thought, wow, that's definitely one we've had before, until I actually see it in hand and in person, and then you can really see that it in fact is a very different version of the Monolophosaurus paint-wise from any of the ones we've had prior. So I think that's really about it. We don't need to go over anything else. Like, obviously we can see the articulation quick, I guess. We have the action feature with the jaw, arm articulation forward and back, also out away from the body, leg articulation forward and back, a little bit out away from the body as well, and then again the tail is part of the action feature. So that's really about it. But other than that, this is a sculpt of the Monolophosaurus we've had quite a few times, and actually now I totally forgot that we have these other ones that have a different type of a head sculpt and different kind of like crest and everything. So we have, I think, 3 different versions of the Monolophosaurus, maybe even more now as far as the sculpts go, but it is pretty fun to continue to have different versions of this dinosaur, again giving you, well, they're not standing very well, but giving you different members of the Monolophosaurus pack, I guess, and we have obviously quite a few more than this, but it's still a pretty fun figure. Even though it's not the flashiest coloration or flashiest paint scheme, it's probably one of the ones that I like a little more that we've had over the last few years. So if you are interested, again, you can pick this one up at Walmart and Target at some point in the very near future, and of course you can do that with the rest of this wave of Jurassic World Rebirth Strike Attacks. So make sure you pick them up if you can find them, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.